And what's up? Welcome in. Luke Doty brings us in as he is going to do every single day for the remainder of the lifetime of GC Live. This is the Friday episode of GC Live. I am Wes Mitchell. He is Chris Clark. And before we forget, got to tell you about our good friend Clint Hammond over at the Mortgage Network, right across from Dreer High School here in Columbia, South Carolina. If you're looking to buy a home, you're looking to maybe upgrade a home, or maybe even you're a first-time home buyer, or you're an experienced investor, hit up Clint, clinthammond.com, 803-771-6933. Interest rates are very low, and even if you're settled in and maybe just want to refinance and save a little money each month, Clint can help you out with that as well. So appreciate Clint. He is our primary presenting sponsor of GC Live every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, and then, of course, during the football season, we go every single day. And appreciate Clint and appreciate you joining us. And Chris, we appreciate all feedback that we receive of our show. Like I say every single day, or when I say it, I say, hey, go subscribe, leave a review. You don't even have to be nice. Just leave some type of review. And when I say that, I mean it from the bottom of my heart. And somebody took me very literally. So I do hope, I shared this on Twitter, I do hope most of our listeners like the show a little bit better than our buddy Warcocks on Gamecock Central Insiders Forum, who left this review. I would love to watch you guys, but you just don't have the personality for it. Just too dry. I love the content. It would be better if you put all that in written format. Thanks. And then I think he started to feel a little bit mad or a little bit bad for how harsh he was being. Said, we'll give you an A+ for effort. My apologies. So
I love it.
Oh, man. We suck, according to Warcock. But it is Free-for-All Friday. Hopefully some of you, most of you, get some added value from the show. We certainly enjoy doing it. Thank you for joining us. This will be a Free-for-All Friday edition, which means we're going to talk about all kinds of stuff. We'll take your questions. And, man, we have got a lot to talk about. We normally have Colin on Fridays. I may still see if we can effort getting Colin on. There's just been a lot to sort through today. Spring practice continues. South Carolina with their third spring practice of the year, of the spring, I should say, yesterday. We're recording this and going live here, obviously, on Friday. Men's basketball situation rolls on. Hopefully there's some finality there. And again, Chris, I'm sort of scared here, honestly, that as we do this live show, but then put it on in podcast form, are we going to be outdated if we talk about this at 2:06 p.m. on Friday by the time some people listen to it this weekend? Very possible. But I do think need to dive into that just a little bit at least. And then baseball. Huge series this weekend. I think not to get too much, not to put too much on one series, Chris, but when you look at how this thing's played out so far, obviously we know about South Carolina getting swept at Texas. Obviously we know about South Carolina losing 2 of 3, but winning the final game at Vandy, and really took care of business on Wednesday against the Citadel. To me, this is like a swing type series for South Carolina, where winning 2 out of 3 really puts you like right back in the mix and in a good spot. Whereas losing 2 of 3 or, getting swept, when you go 1-2, just the way the numbers work.
Yeah.
If you're 1-2 right now, if you drop to 1-5, that is very hard to dig out of against great competition and in 3-game series, just the way they work. So we'll get into that. Again, I'm going to text Colin. Maybe he can hop on at some point. Don't want to overwork him. He's got a lot going on as well. But Chris, first of all, are you ready for the weekend? Second of all, what do we start with?
I am ready for the weekend. I'm ready for the weather to turn around. A little bit nasty today, but yeah, it's going to be a big weekend. Obviously, Wes, most of the morning for us has been totally dominated by some basketball information we've been running down, and probably we should start with that. I think that would make some sense to jump right in, not bury the lead, and start talking a little bit about Frank Martin, the latest with the hoop situation. No, you just posted an update not too long ago, past hour or so, on the Insiders Forums for subscribers of Gamecock Central. If you're not one, you should be. But I think we should start there. Just the latest on the hoop situation.
I agree, man. And by the way, I was sort of caught into what's happening, today. But we have to mention, because obviously we don't have a show on Saturday or Sunday. But by the time we have another show, South Carolina women's basketball will have already competed in the Sweet 16. So we did get some clarity a little bit earlier this week on when the game is, on what time the game is, and where you can watch it. So Sunday, March 28th, obviously this Sunday, 1 p.m., South Carolina versus Georgia Tech. That game is nationally televised on ABC. So obviously South Carolina trying to advance to the Elite Eight and don't want to leave that out, and wanted to make sure that we mention that as well. I'm sure Gamecock fans everywhere will be watching that on Sunday, and really, again, a big weekend for South Carolina athletics, both on the field and off the field / court. So, Chris, again, I agree. Let's start there. And I will start by saying this has probably been one of the more fluid situations as far as just there being so many variables to try and follow, to try and track, to try and make sure we are keeping record of, I guess, for the lack of way to say it. It's always interesting. You gather the most information you can, and in this one, there have been, I think, some not necessarily a consensus at all times as far as what the best course of action is. I think, for most of the last, 2 weeks this has gone, we've sort of been a little bit conservative as far as just saying, hey, this is a fluid situation. Worth pointing out, as this week has gone on, and, as we said on the Insiders Forum, it appeared to be trending towards more than likely a change at men's basketball coach spot with Frank Martin. Whatever that may look like, we know that other schools he's been, maybe mentioned in connection with other jobs, or, whether it's just South Carolina itself making a move. As we're recording this and going live 2 o'clock, a little after 2 o'clock on Friday, as we also posted on Gamecock Central, Chris, appears to be maybe shifting back the other way. And I think we started to get that feel when we delivered that message this afternoon. And then I would say maybe that's even strengthened in the last, hour or so. Again, we have to reiterate, it's a fluid situation. It's not done until it's done. I do think there's going to be some semblance of this thing having a clear course of action very soon. And I hope that it does for everyone involved. But right now, I think safe to say that Frank Martin will have an opportunity to come back as South Carolina's coach. And Chris, I guess safe to say that maybe we would lean towards that being the most likely outcome at this point.
It certainly does seem that way, according to what we've heard this morning. And, we like the cool thing about this show, Wes, is think things when you're putting it down on paper or over text or whatever, over an email. It's not the written word. It cannot always sort of perfectly capture everything. And so we're able to give a little bit more context and sort of be a little honest about not necessarily like how the sausage is made, but go a little bit farther, into things. And so, like you said, extremely fluid situation. Our reporting has reflected that because that's how it's been. It's not been a black and white situation. It's been very much a gray situation for a lot of reasons. And just being totally honest, totally frank about it, there's some stuff that we don't know yet as far as like why or how. Like we don't know that stuff yet. We just know that there has been a shift from where it appeared to be heading, like you said earlier this week, up until this morning with some things we started to pick up. Why is that? I don't fully know. I don't think either of us know right now, and we'll continue doing our job to try to find out maybe what some of those things were that we can pass along and report. But that does appear to be the direction now, which is certainly interesting. There are a lot of layers to it. There's a lot of complexities to the situation, but that's where it seems to be right now.
Yes, and again, could is there some chance it could maybe somehow switch again? I mean, we don't anticipate it, but also you never know. It is fluid until it is final. Is my new motto of life. It is fluid until it's final. And right now, as of 2/14, it is not final, but we will see where it goes. And I think that now let's play it out. Let's assume that ends up being what happens. Now, if you're the University of South Carolina, this thing has sort of hung out there for about 2 weeks now, right? And which it's in the big picture, it is just 2 weeks. In sports, hot take, Twitter, message board, 2021 world, 2 weeks is a long time and feels like a long time.
Yeah.
So now I think, Chris, the attention has to be on finding a way to then put as much support as possible out there for Frank Martin and finding a way to fix this thing. You never want to bring a guy back just to bring a guy back. You never want to bring a guy back to run out the clock on a contract.
Right.
If you bring somebody back, you got to give them what they need to go win. So for me, I don't know exactly what that means. I don't know exactly what that looks like, but you've got to throw as much support as possible behind Frank Martin, or else you end up with a situation similar to Muschamp where, you let him go hire a new offensive coordinator, brought him back, and then you felt like you were in the exact same spot a year later and got rid of him.
Yeah, and that's going to be, again, this thing, as we're here at 2:15 on Friday without, resolution being actually announced, or, still trying to find out a lot about the path forward and what may ultimately happen. We don't know those things yet, right? We're sitting here right now. So we don't know, for instance, what's the deal with the contract? Like, we don't know those things yet. And those things will all be key, to the future. Obviously, when you look in the short term, the more short term, biggest factor that's going to shape everything is just next season. I mean, it's obviously, no matter what, you take away all the other factors, next year is obviously going to be key for the basketball program. They're going to have to get back to some type of winning ways for there to be, we think sitting here right now, for there to be a long-term, marriage that'll continue. But we just don't have a lot of answers, like you said, Wes, about like the support level and the all those different factors. Like we just don't know it yet. And those are things that have to get answered because they're very important. And so how South Carolina now handles this situation, I think, is really interesting. I don't know if we have a great sense yet. Is there a contract addressing of the contract? Are there statements put out? Like, how is it handled from a PR standpoint, just to be frank? I think that part's sort of fascinating.
Yeah, I think there has to be a lot of that, Chris. I think you have to put some stuff out. You have to maybe call an end of year press conference and sort of start the, for lack of a better phrase, the healing process, I think, moving forward. Right before we went on, by the way, I asked Chris, how long would it take before somebody made fun of my hat? Because I never wear a hat on the show. I think we were 2 minutes late starting. So at 2:16, so that would be, the answer would be 14 minutes. It took 14 minutes. James says he likes my hat, but his mom has one just like it. I like this hat. I don't know. It maybe fits a little weird on the top of my head. I've been messing with it, but I think it's a cool hat. It's all good. Whatever. Let's see. Steven asked Gamecock Russ if he's watching the baseball game or if he's got date night tonight. By the way, I saw on Twitter, Gamecock Russ, Twitter official, as of I think maybe the last week or so. So what's up, Gamecock Russ? Shout out to you, man. Congrats. We'll give you the GC Live shout out there. And let's see. Hope says any date night should include Gamecock sports. Good. That's a good call. He can do both. Why not both? So anyway, Chris, do you have anything else to add on the men's basketball situation as of now? Or to add on my hat? I see you got like a little grin on your face.
No, I was telling you before the show, when you brought that up, I'm just glad that I am not the brunt of the joke today and getting made fun of. There's still plenty of time, lots of time left in the show. Get them in. My hair, my shirt, how it's falling down my neck, the facial hair, the red face, whatever you want. Oh, I didn't mean to hit that button. And you can make fun of me for that, not knowing like technology. Wes makes fun of me for that sometimes because sometimes I have an allergy to different technological things. So there's still time, but yeah, nothing else to add. And I did see one comment from Jonathan here on Facebook, and this is an interesting point. We were talking about this earlier, Wes. 4 years to the day, right, of the Final Four run, which is pretty interesting. And look, since then, again, complexities in the different situations. Not black and white exactly, but if there's one thing that there is a consensus on in this whole basketball situation,
it's that there's no consensus.
Well, that is one. But as far as on court, I don't think there's anybody looking around that's going, yeah, the past couple seasons, that's been fine. Like, nobody's saying that in this whole deal. I think there's definitely been, like you said, man, no consensus on the path forward, right? That's been the issue, whether it's, you throw in a potential $6 million buyout, then you talk about recruiting, then you talk about, well, why has the team not won the past few seasons? Can they win? Like, there's all these different things you can draw in, and that's when the debate starts. I don't think that there's a debate where anybody's saying it's good enough. It's not. And that's why I said that next season, it was thought originally that this season would be the critical one. There's some changes that, have thrown that into that gray area that we talked about. So now it's next year. And that one I do think we got reason to believe that's going to be sort of that referendum year. But 4 years to the day of the Final Four. Hasn't been good enough since. So can it get fixed? And it looks like, as we've been discussing the whole show, just about, Frank Martin is going to have the opportunity to fix that.
Yeah, we will be joined, by the way, by Colin Taylor later on in the show, probably about 20 minutes from now. So we'll dive into baseball with Colin. So I think you and I, maybe Chris, will talk a little bit of football here and then shift it to baseball for the final 20 minutes. Josh says, Wes in a hat. That's weird. I was very curious to see y'all's reactions, by the way. And I actually like, if I'm just around the house, I like the backwards hat feel better than the forwards hat. But I knew I was going to get so much crap if I hopped on here. I think I'm past the age of backwards hat in public, maybe, unless you're just doing like working in the yard or something. So I did not go that route. David asks, is Martin going to have contract extended? We shall see, David. I don't know what it's going to look like. We have not been given details on what it's going to look like as far as the structure moving forward, assuming that it heads the direction we believe it is, which would be Martin staying. I mean, again, that goes back to what I said earlier. If you're going to bring someone back, you have to support them. You can't just bring them back and be like, hey, good luck. So does that involve an extension? Does that involve an extension, but a lowered buyout for the future? Is that something they talk about? We don't know. But again, you have to support someone if you're going to bring them back. Literally no point in bringing someone. You can't, like the movie trope where the owner like doesn't support the manager or coach of the team and secretly wants them to fail, that does no one any good whatsoever. So if you bring them back, you have to support them, is my opinion on that. So football, let's see, Chris, some Gamecocks talking today, and thanks to Colin for sort of pinch hitting for me with some of the players that spoke, because I was supposed to listen to that and provide some updates. Then you and I were working on this Martin stuff. He hopped in. Several, I'll say, first of all, let's go big picture, man. Several guys that I know fans were probably pretty excited to hear from or wanted to hear from and maybe would have liked to have heard from in the past. They spoke to the media today. So you've got, let's see, Ortre Smith, Eric Douglas. And Eric Douglas, he spoke a lot last year, really sharp dude who always had some good thoughts. Randricus Davis, who we have not heard from in forever. Nick Muse, always a good listen, always a good quote. Doesn't always make people happy with what he says, but I respect the fact that he says what he believes. And then how about this? Marshawn Lloyd, Luke Doty, who we did actually get to talk to a little bit last year at the end once Mike Bobo took over. So I would say a pretty star-studded group of guys that spoke to the media, and you're starting to see a little bit more, or even a lot more, open program as far as fans being able to hear from these guys, which I believe is a point of emphasis for the current coaching staff.
Yeah, definitely feels like that. I mean, obviously one of the changes Shane Beamer made, allowing, freshmen to talk, but even beyond that, just obviously Marshawn Lloyd, we did not hear from last year. Ortre Smith was not with the team. So Randricus Davis, a lot of people wondering what's going on with him after an opt-out year and after going through a lot of injuries. And Luke Doty, like you said, we did hear from some last year, but, it's going to be one of the leaders of this football team. So it was a really interesting group. Some guys that have been, that we just haven't heard from in that type of setting before. So a lot of interesting stuff just on, with Ortre, I think talking about his knee and the situation he went through with that, how he got back from it was really neat. Hearing about Marshawn's rehab, hearing some players' thoughts on the new staff and how things are being done. And Luke Day, thought was some really interesting comments today from members of this football team.
Yeah, and you can sort of have a full recap there on Gamecock Central if you're a subscriber. Colin, I understand, is working on a Marshawn Lloyd article right now with some of his thoughts. That'll be up, I think, in the next probably 15 minutes or so. I'm trying to sort of go through the notes a little bit. Ortre said his body feels great right now. He essentially, and Chris, you and I can relate to this. When he opted out, he essentially went home, got a gym membership to, what did he say, Crunch Fitness? Is that right? And then just started eating a lot of Chipotle, which I got to admit is one of my favorites. I believe it's one of Chris's favorites, and an excellent post-workout meal if you're trying to sort of get a little bit of everything and build some muscle. So, Ortre, we mentioned this, I guess that was probably Monday's show. Looked great physically. No brace on the knee, no sleeve on the knee. Appeared to be in a good place physically. Ortre saying he's ready to try and be the number one receiver. His main goal is to be the best receiver that he can be. Really likes the new staff. First meeting with Beamer was talking about the program as a whole, and the message was to get ready to work. But he also says Beamer is a family person, and that they've been doing a lot of things that are required that you do them with your teammates to build cohesion within the team. Things that are designed to make the guys closer. Said the knee feels great. Said his family and his trainer have played a big role in his life. And let's see, there's a little bit more in there, but that's sort of the quick rundown. And if you want to talk about ifs, like if this happens, South Carolina would be this next year. Ortre Smith is one of those big ifs, I think. And what were we calling them last year, Chris? The wild cards, like the guys that could make a big impact that maybe haven't necessarily done it quite yet at this point in their careers. Well, the if for me is if you get Ortre Smith that has built off of his freshman year, what we all saw he could possibly be, then this guy's a sure starter for you and probably an impact guy.
Yeah, I mean, his freshman season in 2017, obviously he was a guy that had a lot of scholarship offers coming out of high school, was pretty highly regarded out of Wando, and had size and jump ball ability, and he showed some flashes of that. I think he caught 30 balls that freshman year, made some big plays, 4 touchdowns for the Gamecocks. I remember, sorry to bring this up. I mean, it was a win, but not a fun game for Gamecock fans. The LA Tech game, he made some big plays in that game. I think he had a touchdown against Texas A&M in that road game that South Carolina barely dropped in College Station. So there were certainly some plays that he made, and he showed a lot of that potential. And then, just the injury situation, the opt-out situation. Again, we discussed this before, Wes. Like, people think about surgery sometimes, say, surgery's fixed now. But, especially with a surgery that complex, where you're literally moving a kneecap over, sublux kneecap, you're moving it over. You not only have to deal with the pain of that, but Ortre even went into detail about how he had to get it fixed again. And so there's some complications with that. And so he looks good. Like you said, man, bare knees at practice the other day, and look good running around out there. So now the key is going out there and playing receiver, right? The health now is in place. He's got some experience. He's got some he's not a veteran because he's really played one season, but he's an older guy, and he's a guy that sort of knows the ropes to that degree. He's got some SEC and some big game experience, so would certainly be big. South Carolina's going to need some guys like Ortre Smith, those wild cards that you said, to step forward if they're going to be able to take a step forward on the field this season.
Yeah, and I don't know that we can. We also got to remember the sort of impact of having somebody new working with you at receivers coach, and having a guy like Justin Stepp, very highly regarded as a developer, also as a recruiter, but in this case, the developer part is what matters. So that could be massive, I think, for Ortre. And so I obviously didn't hear the entire thing. Did he reveal that today, Chris, that he had to have multiple surgeries, or did we already know that?
Yeah, I think that was something just revealed today. I hadn't actually not heard that. And I need to go through and pull exactly what he said just to make sure that I actually saw that right. They had to move. Maybe they were talking about, I think maybe he was talking about the first surgery there. So I might have actually gotten that wrong. I feel like I saw something out there about it, about having to move it over. But I know the actual surgery for the sublux kneecap is you move it over. So you literally are moving your kneecap from one place to another. So maybe not a second one, but they did have to fix that. And I did hear, and something you didn't really go into as much today, I don't think, is that's just a tough surgery to come back from a pain management standpoint. Like, even though after the surgery he was healthy, the genetic condition was fixed, quote unquote, there's some pain tolerance issues and things like that you got to work through. It just takes some time. So it was a big procedure. It's a tough thing.
Somebody mentioned wasn't Ortre way more highly recruited than Shi Smith? I wouldn't go that far, so I just pulled it up. First of all, they're completely different types of receivers, so it's kind of hard to compare. I think even though they're receivers, sometimes it's apples to oranges when you're talking about different types of players at that same position. According to Rivals, both were 4-star guys. Ortre, the number 104 overall prospect nationally, and Shi, the number 205. So some distance there. Shi, the number 34 receiver, Ortre, the number 15 receiver. And again, both the guys in the same class. That's class of 2017. And Ortre, the number 1 player in the state, and Shi, the number 2 player in the state that year, according to Rivals.com. There was a question also about the years that Ortre would have left. So right now, Ortre is listed as a redshirt senior. With COVID, obviously, so he plays this year as a redshirt senior. With COVID, he would have another year to play next year. Let's let's see. I'm trying to think back. Would he be a candidate for another season after that, Chris? Because of the injuries, one of the red shirts that's already calculated in what was due to injury, and I really, honestly, I can't see at this point. Guys don't stay. That would be a third year basically. So this year, next year, and one more. I can't see that even being part of this equation. But so technically, right now, as far as it goes, he would have 2 years left. So now they're listing the guys as if last year counted. If you look at the official roster, so he's listed as a redshirt senior, but he would have one more year to come back next year if he wanted it. And we'll see. Obviously, he would love to have a big enough year at his age that that he could be a potential draft guy next year. So obviously there's a lot to be determined there as far as if that can happen or not. Randricus Davis, as I said, one of the other opt-outs, and something that hit me when reading this, and Davis said that he had 2 screws put in his leg last year, Chris, and said that he thought it was in his best interest to sit out and just get healthy. We're actually getting, by the way, Chris, you see this? We're getting a update here from someone I believe would very much know the situation with Ortre, who said he did not have multiple surgeries. The actual surgery was just very complex. So we will definitely take this person's word on that one. They will definitely know the answer there. But again, an outstanding opportunity, I think, for Trey Smith this year, a wide receiver position that is going to be wide open, and he'll have every opportunity, I think, to get out there and get on the field and make some plays and sort of step into that role that he envisioned, I'm sure, when he signed with South Carolina and when we saw him really flash a ton of potential. If you look at the freshman season that Ortre Smith had compared to just other freshmen at South Carolina, there's not a ton of freshmen that put up numbers like he did. So the flashes, the talent, the potential, it's all there. It's just a matter of him being able to get back to to that healthy form that we saw then.
Yeah, and that's what we're saying, man. He's made some big plays and big game, situations. Just hasn't had, that opportunity. 30 catches, 326 yards, had a 28-yard long and 3 touchdowns. Actually had 1 touchdown in 2019. I guess that's where I was getting the 4 touchdowns from. Actually had 3 in 2017, but made some really big plays, and certainly has flashed that potential. So it's great that he's healthy, back out there. I mean, Ortre Smith, he's been engaged with the team for quite a while. And so, even dating back to the bowl game, that's something we reported, that he was really engaged with the team at the team meeting with Beamer, which he spoke about today. And he's just been working his way back and looked really good out there when we got to see him, Wes. Wes, I'm actually going to take a call real quick.
Okay. All right. Well, make sure you mute yourself for that. We'll let Chris roll. Hopefully he comes back on, doesn't leave me hanging, but I believe that's probably an important call there for Chris. And hey, y'all can actually see my Gamecock Central background now. All right. I don't like doing this thing by myself. So if y'all got questions, throw them in. Y'all can sort of lead the conversation here and give me something to talk about. But what I was about to say was Randricus Davis talking today. And again, I did not actually get to hear it, but I was going through Colin Taylor's notes there on Gamecock Central, and it sort of struck me. He had 2 screws put in his leg and really, has been a guy that has been just hamstrung with injuries from the second he arrived on campus. And, y'all, you can go back. Randricus Davis, he was a 4-star prospect, I would say, very to fairly highly recruited, was considered a major win for South Carolina at the time when they landed him. So, and showed flashes as a freshman as well. So I think when you look at Randricus, I wonder what is the value or how great is the value after being injured for so long of just being able to take a year and let your body reset. What is the value of being able to not get beat up, not cut, not go through these strenuous workouts? I'm not sitting here predicting, that you can say he's definitely going to have a huge season right now. But, you look at Randricus Davis and the sort of opportunity he will have. He's kind of the forgotten guy and kind of the guy that people aren't talking about, but could sort of come out of nowhere and have an opportunity to go make some plays this year. And as is pointed out here on Periscope, and I agree 100%, a lot of fans really don't understand how tough it is for these kids to come back from an injury. We look at injuries as media and fans as being, and I'm going to go ahead and bring Colin Taylor in here now. We look at injuries as being an abstract thing. Like, oh, that guy's injured. That's a part of the game. Well, for the kids that are actually going through those injuries, they're the ones having to go through the actual pain. We don't think about the pain they go through. We don't think about the mental aspect of injuries. We don't think about the just hours and hours and days built up of rehab that they go through in physical therapy. So that sometimes gets lost on us as media, as fans, as people on the outside looking in. So always important to get a reminder of that. And we bring Colin in. And Colin, first of all, appreciate you picking up the slack for me there on the Zoom this afternoon. And we heard from a couple of guys who, like we're talking about right now, have dealt with injuries, have dealt with the physical and mental part of having to deal with that. And now, I think are going to have opportunities. What was the vibe you got from listening to Ortre Smith talk, from listening to Randricus Davis? And then I'm about to forget Marshawn Lloyd. He spoke today as well. He's still in the process of coming back from his. What was the vibe? What were your takeaways hearing from those guys today, man?
Well, first of all, you didn't have to pick up any slack on the Zoom call. You had other busier things you had to take care of with men's basketball. But yeah, it was a very enlightening Zoom. Marshawn Lloyd maybe gave one of the best media availabilities I've seen at South Carolina. The dude just gets it. So he was fantastic. And when you talk about Ortre and Dreek and Marshawn, they're guys that understand the process. They seem to have gone through the valley that is rehab and is long-term injuries, and they've come out better people and better players because of it. I mean, Ortre Smith talked about the knee feeling as good as it has since his freshman year. It seems like he's been part of this program for like a decade. There are players you look back and you're covering, and it's like you feel like you've covered them forever. And he feels as good as he ever has. Dreek Davis is still in the process of getting back, he mentioned, but had 2 screws put into his leg, which is why he opted out. One of the reasons why he opted out. And Lloyd obviously working back from it. But as jovial and as optimistic and positive as I've seen someone that's coming off what he is, which is, an absolutely serious ACL injury. So great Zoom. I thought it was very encouraging and optimistic from the offensive side of the ball.
Yeah, and I was looking at your notes, man. I know a couple of the guys were asked maybe a little bit about, the vibe around the program, whether it was talking about Luke Day. I think maybe Ortre got asked about Justin Stepp a little bit and working with him. There were some questions about Derek Moore. What were the big takeaways from you as far as the guys talking about maybe a new approach or some of the new coaches that they're enjoying working with?
Yeah. Well, first of all, it seems, Eric Douglas said something about the fact that people weren't looking out for just themselves anymore. That was a big takeaway of mine. Was that kind of perked my ears up. Said that people are kind of looking out for each other, and not just from a position group standpoint, but Derek Moore's been talking about building allegiances across position group lines. So with the secondary, if you're an offensive lineman, building it with the secondary, the linebackers. So you build that trust that, the way Eric Douglas said it was, if it's 4th and 3, I'm going to have all the confidence in the world that defense is going to get a stop because I've built that relationship with them, and you have confidence in your brothers on the other side of the ball to do their job. So the vibe is just completely different. And and it's just more. There's more enthusiasm. There's more positive energy than in other years, just from what the players have been saying. And Justin Stepp got a lot of glowing reviews. Marcus Satterfield got a lot of glowing reviews, and Greg Atkins just got the view of a guy that just knows what he's talking about. Probably one of the more interesting guys on staff, and Eric Douglas was very complimentary of him. So it's what we expected. You never expect guys to come in and bash the coaches 3 practices into spring, but there are very positive signs coming out of spring practice, and energy seems to be high without any live bullets flying.
Yeah, they're not gonna be like, these guys suck. But I think sometimes, Colin, you can tell when a guy's giving a compliment just because he's like put on the spot and asked to give a compliment. Like, you have to say something nice versus they're going out of their way to maybe give a little more detail about why they're giving that compliment and giving you some reasons. When guys start giving you reasons that they like the way things are being done, I think that actually speaks a little bit more than just your general run-of-the-mill player speak type stuff. Obviously, Luke Doty, we did hear from him a little bit last year once the policy got changed when Mike Bobo was the interim coach. But any key takeaway from Luke today? Obviously, he's kind of going to be the positive guy every time he speaks, I think. But did anything catch your attention, Colin?
No, I mean, first of all, that dude is like triple rainbows coming out of his ears. Everything, he could step in a puddle and just be happy that it wasn't mud filled. I mean, that's what that guy is. But he was very complimentary of the offensive scheme. Said that they hope to be able to use his athleticism if he's the starter to be able to run the ball. They like taking shots deep, but aren't going to sacrifice that for, getting yards and pushing the middle of the field and getting those 5 to 10 yard, 15-yard gains instead of the big explosive plays too. So likes what he's seen from Marcus Satterfield. Really hopes that this is an offense that comes together, and he's been impressed with. He heaped a lot of praise on Colton Gauthier and Jason Brown, who've come in and Colton Gauthier was the star of this Zoom, just in terms of the praise heaped on him from Doty and from a lot of different people about his ability to learn the playbook, about his just maturity as a freshman. And I mean, Doty was everything you'd expect him to be from a positivity standpoint, and from a guy that's going to be a leader of this football team.
Let's shift gears, Colin. Baseball this weekend, key three-game matchup. Looking outside right now, hopefully we're going to be good weather-wise. And man, I don't want to be be the guy that puts way too much emphasis on one series, one weekend. It's still week 2 of SEC play. But man, I can't escape the feel that this is a pivotal early season series for South Carolina, in that it could sort of frame up the way we're talking about the rest of the SEC series is for South Carolina. Because you're 1-2 right now. And, I think with the talent, the level of talent on these teams South Carolina plays, if you get swept at home, or even, losing 2 out of 3 this week, you're going to be trying to dig out of that for the rest of the SEC slate. I feel like they got a little positive momentum by beating Vanderbilt on Sunday. They played, I would say, a business-like, just took care of business on Wednesday, and that was Tuesday or Wednesday. I can't even remember. That was, I thought, a very big positive for them to take the Vanderbilt win and parlay that into a good offensive and great start from Will Sanders midweek. So am I wrong in thinking that this is a massive series for South Carolina in how we're going to sort of frame the rest of SEC play?
Yeah, I don't want, like you said, I'm not going to heap too much onto one series, but just me internally, it feels like a big one, that if you can win this series and start 3-3 in SEC play, because I don't think it's going to be a sweep either way. I think South Carolina is going to get at least one game, and it's a matter of, can you get another? Can you beat a Tommy Mace or a Leftwich or a Barco to do that? And trust me, if they get off to a good start tonight and hit Tommy Mace, and Thomas Farr does what Thomas Farr has been doing all season, I mean, you set yourself up really well for the weekend. You need to. I mean, a series win this weekend would be huge because you have some very winnable series coming up with Georgia on the road next weekend, and then Missouri at home. But it's just the stigma of beating Florida. This is a rivalry that's you've had College World Series matchups. I mean, there was 1v2 in 2016, if I'm not mistaken, where the Tyler Johnson game when he closed it out. I mean, the stigma of beating Florida and moving forward and building some confidence from that would be huge if you're South Carolina. But with those winnable series, and I was listening to Skylar Mee talk on the JB and Goldwater show today. It's not like they went out there and I believed the word Skylar used was donkey stomp. They didn't donkey stomp Vanderbilt Sunday and just jump out to a big lead and coast. They had to come from behind in the 8th inning and win that game. So that tells you that you can compete and play well against a good team. And I think this is going to be huge for South Carolina.
Yeah, and that I don't know, especially if we look back and South Carolina has a good year. I don't know if we can really I don't know if you can downplay how big stealing a final game from Vandy on Sunday was when you put it in the context of the fact that they had lost so many games in a row going into that. Like you said, you're down in the game. You're actually down pretty big early on against a team that hit you the night before. And Colin, I was sort of, when I was listening to the game, I heard on the broadcast in the background, I kept hearing this cheering. And I was like, oh, the Vandy fans are fired up today, even though there's nobody there. And then I realized that noise was from the South Carolina dugout, which it just caught my attention how still into the game they were, considering all the things we just talked about. I know some credit has been given to Kingston getting thrown out, like all that sparked the troops, that fired him up. I thought they remained fired up and remained in the game well before that, despite that. And to me, that was sort of a revealing game for them in that this isn't just all talk. They aren't just guys that can goof around with the props and stuff like that when they're winning. They don't just like each other when they're winning. They sort of stayed in that same headspace, even when things were going really bad for a stretch. So I don't want to put too much into that, but also I think if we look back on this year and it's been a successful year, we maybe even circle that day and say that ended up being pivotal for them.
Yeah, they don't shut up. And I mean that as a compliment. This team does not shut up. They're very close-knit. I mean, it's easy to see it with obviously the Reaper and all the stupid stuff that they do and dropping the vocabulary words in press conferences. But this is a group that sticks together. It's not like, if Julian Bosman goes out and gives up 5 runs in 3 innings, they're not going to sit there and say, well, screw Julian and the game's over. They're going to go fight. And you saw that on Sunday. So yeah, this is a tight knit group and you saw it Sunday, but then Tuesday, I mean, they were some of the more animated I've ever seen them. And that's coming off winning one of their last, 7 games. And that energy carried over and they had a pretty good offensive night. So this is one of those teams that is going to stick together through a lot of different stuff. They've gone through the battles together. So I'm very excited to see just the energy that they come to the ballpark with. And if they can come in energized and ready to go and you get a good outing from Thomas Farr, there's a chance you can take game 1 and then you set yourself up for a great spot over the course of the next 2.
Jonathan says, correction, Vandy on Sunday may have been the pivotal point if we continue this weekend. I think that's what I said. If I didn't say Sunday, if I said the wrong day, that's what I meant, was that the win over Vandy on Sunday was a pivotal point in the season. So we'll see if they can continue that. Colin, tell us, what do we need to know about Florida? Give us sort of a quick scouting report. How are they built? How do they win games? They're obviously 3-0. They started their SEC schedule off right, I think, against Missouri last week. They're 3-0. No, Texas A&M. They're 3-0, but they always pitch, it seems like. I was looking at the stats. Head-to-head, they do have a little bit of an edge over South Carolina, just kind of across the board. But what type of team is this version of Florida?
It's very similar pitching wise, very similar. Offensively, kind of a little different, but I mean, it's what you expect from a Florida team. Tommy Mace is a first round talent, which I feel like I say that every week going into the SEC slate. Jack Leftwich is really good. He's leading the team starters and ERA. Hunter Barco, again, a lefty that South Carolina is going to have to get after. And offensively, they're not a team that hits for a lot of power, but they're leading the SEC in hits. They knock the ball around pitchers, and that's how they win games. So if you can keep the ball down, if you can get to a starter and get to that bullpen, then you feel pretty good about your chances. But it's a good pitching staff. And these are probably going to be low scoring games because both are just absolutely elite. And it should be a fun weekend of some probably 3 really close games.
Yeah, 3 good games. By the way, Patrick asked if the games are on TV. So tonight's game is at 7 o'clock. You can check that one on Network Plus. Saturday is on SEC Network Plus. Sunday on the Big Boy SEC Network. Really, I mean, we're spoiled now. I mean, it used to be that if the games weren't on TV, there was a time when a lot of them were not on TV. And then if they weren't, you couldn't watch them or you were just left with just sort of one camera type stream. And it was tough. Well, now all the SEC games are pretty much on SEC Network Plus. So just, log in on your Fire Stick or Hulu and get the ESPN app and you'll be good to go to watch that as long as your TV provider has SEC Network in your package. So, Colin, there's been a little bit of a possible change on the Sunday starter as far as the pitchers go. What's your take on this? Is this a situation where maybe Brett Carey, if you use him, if you need to use him, you throw him out there. If you don't, you start him on Sunday. Is it premature to say that? Is that your guess as well? I mean, we can probably agree. I would guess they went into this after the last 2 weeks saying we can't go into the latter part of many Sunday games and have not used Brett Carey, at that point. So is that your guess or other guys in the mix for that spot as well?
I mean, if I had to put money on it, I'd put money on either Julian Bosnick or Brett Carey being your Sunday starter. I mean, sure, Andy Peters has starter-like stuff. Jack Mahoney has starter-like stuff. But those are the 2 leading candidates in Bosnick and Carey. And, this TBA on Sunday gives you the flexibility to where if you need Brett Carey to win you a game on Friday or Saturday and shut them down for, 2 innings or 3 innings, you got him. And you can use him. So you're not slotted into that. But, if you don't need him the first 2 games, then boom, you have a guy that's gone out there and started before on the weekend and, shut down a good Vanderbilt offense on Sunday for 5 2/3 on a very low pitch count for that long of a start. So, that's my guess is how they're going to work it. Kingston was very coy when I followed up and asked him about it, but that seems to be the thought process just from me looking at it. Whether that's Carey or Bosnick starting on Sunday, but they just wanted to do that to give some flexibility to things.
Yeah, and I got to think, man, at some point, if it continues the way it is, at some point, Will Sanders may push his way into this mix as well, depending on what happens with the guys. Just because, I mean, dude, I thought he was outstanding on
Tuesday.
Whatever day it was. They've all run together.
They all blend together this time.
They played on Tuesday. But, dude, he was outstanding. And to me, at some point, and Elizabeth has asked, Colin, I'll throw it to you, can Sanders start Sunday or did he throw too many pitches on Tuesday? It sounds like you don't think that's necessarily one of the options, but as a hypothetical, would we be at that point yet, or would it be more like if things don't work out this week, they would go ahead and sort of be preparing for maybe him to be a guy in the mix next week?
Yeah, I don't see you never say never. I'll preface it with that, but I don't see Sanders starting this week. Like I said, I think those 2 probable candidates are Bosnick and Carey. I think Sanders will be a big piece out of the bullpen. I don't think you'll see him tonight just from the fact that he threw, I think, 67 pitches, a couple days ago. but I'm not ruling out seeing him either Saturday or Sunday out of the bullpen. He is someone with weekend-like stuff who is incredibly good. I think if the draft was different and he was here without Thomas Farr and Brandon Jordan, he would be a starter as a freshman. I just think that that's the case. He has first-round level potential in his time at South Carolina. I'm not ruling out him being a guy that starts at some point this year, but I don't see it this weekend. I think he's more of a bullpen guy.
I got you. And final thing here, Colin. What are your keys to victory, real quick, for South Carolina or for Florida? What are going to be sort of the keys you watch this week that are going to maybe swing this thing one way or the other?
Yeah, I think South Carolina is going to have to take advantage of some Florida mishaps. They're not a great defensive team, and South Carolina has struggled with runners in scoring position as of late during that 6-game skid. So if you get guys on base, then you need to be able to take advantage and drive in some runs with it. And obviously, not allowing inherited runners to score, that's been an issue over the last couple weeks with the bullpen, allowing inherited guys coming in with guys on base and then giving them up. So that's something that I think needs to continue to be better. They've been good this year, but needs to be better. And I think you need to get Andrew Eister going because he's really struggled the last 2 weeks, and I think he's hitting like 100 on over the last 8 games. So you need to get him going and stop him from striking out so much. And if you can do that, that's power bat in the lineup.
Which is so weird for me to see, man, because I feel like Eister's like a hitterish dude, right? Like he's just one of those guys that just finds hits. So it's weird to see him struggling. He's too good of a hitter. It won't last, and he'll go off, I think, and even things out. But again, should be a fun series, man. Like you said, you'll have complete coverage there on Gamecock Central as always. I was looking through the notes, man. With everything that's happened between South Carolina and Florida over the years, there have been some big key matchups. Obviously, they played for a national championship. Through all that, a 48-47 overall series advantage head-to-head for Florida. So these two teams, or these two programs, we'll go big picture, these two programs as even as they could possibly be over the years, and both have been at the absolute top of the sport at various times in the last decade as well. So will be fun as always, Colin. We appreciate the time as always, man. And we'll talk to you soon, okay?
Absolutely. Appreciate it.
Yep, Colin Taylor with good stuff as always. And I think Chris is just done with us for the day. Must have been a really important phone call. So hopefully we'll get the scoop on what that was. And for everybody else, for all of our folks here in the chat and everybody that has listened on the show, we appreciate you. We appreciate the support as always. And leave us a review, whether it's positive or not. We'd love to hear from you. Please hit the rate, review, subscribe buttons on the podcast side. Hit subscribe on YouTube. And, of course, come check us out, GamecockCentral.com. Complete coverage this weekend, baseball, men's basketball situation, women's basketball as they try to get back to the Elite Eight. Should be a fun game on Sunday afternoon. And even more going on. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate all the support. Hope y'all have a great weekend. Hope that it stays dry. And we hope to see you on Monday.